expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. That's my website. Go to emailrevealer.com. You can catch your spouse cheating online. You can get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. Locate people, all kind of fun stuff. Don't forget, oppermanreport.com. That's my website for the radio show. And you can go there and subscribe. And we have special content, additional content that you won't be able to find either on Friday nights or on Saturday nights live for free. Quick shout out to the guys over at Bellagio right now on the Strip, starting, I believe it's starting at 5 o'clock, and it's going on until tonight about 8 or 9 o'clock. They're having a silent vigil. Democrats, mostly Bernie supporters, but a lot of Hillary supporters as well, are protesting down there, having a silent vigil because of what took place here in Nevada last week. We have tonight one of my favorite guests, I got to admit. I'm always begging her to come on. Pretty much I should just give her the password and let her just come on whenever she wants. Dr. Cynthia McKinney, former Congresswoman, and now down someplace, living in Asia, teaching a college course. Cynthia, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, where are you?
Where I am, it's in the morning.
Right.
And I went to go get some saline solution to put in my eyes so I could wake up. So anyway, I didn't realize that you were a real investigator. Are you like a PI?
Oh, yeah. I think we talked about this a couple of times. Yeah. I'm a private investigator and a digital forensic investigator. So people will send me cell phones and computer hard drives, and I'll reduce all the information to a report that can be used in court.
Oh, so you're qualified then to tell us about Hillary's emails and the server in the bathroom, and you can really talk about that.
You know what, Cynthia? I can. In a lot of ways, I can. And I have my own theory about that, and I'd like to hear what you think. Because it makes no sense. We know about the Clintons and their concerns about being wiretapped. When he was talking to Monica Lewinsky, he would tell her, hey, the Israelis wiretap our phones here at the White House. So it would make no sense that they would have this kind of fugazi server without any kind of extra security. I think they had this server because they had more security on it, and that the State Department servers are like wide open, and everyone and the Israelis have wide open access to that. That's what they were trying to cover up. What would you think about something like that?
Well, now that is a possibility, but I just took it in the other direction, and I hadn't really thought that they were trying to get more security. I thought my initial thoughts were that they were trying to get less transparency because, not only has she been First Lady, but she's also served in the Congress. And I know that part of the orientation for members of Congress involves the, sort of the separation that needs to take place between the official and the private. And of course, with her being a lawyer, she would be aware of people who've gotten into a lot of trouble, like, for example, the former mayor of the city of Detroit, who was having an affair using the city supplied cell phone. And so then all of those text messages became public when some police officers blew the whistle on the mayor's illicit activities. So I know that she would be aware of that. So in an effort to hide and forestall the possibility of having her emails made public in the future, that she would just move everything off the publicly owned facilities and onto the privately owned facilities where she could do exactly what she's done, and that is turn over what she wants to turn over and keep private that which she wants to keep private. This would have allowed her to conduct private, personal foundation business on sort of government time, in quotation marks. And it would have allowed her to have the freedom to have that kind of a discussion using no matter what. I used to have 2 cell phones. I had my personal cell phone and I had the government cell phone. And so personal calls, me and my mom having a chat, that would go on my personal phone. Me and my mom discussing my schedule, or my mom discussing my schedule with the staff, that goes on the public phone. And it's not very difficult vision to make, but it is somewhat cumbersome. And as I say, it allows the public disclosure of the contents of these emails. If you're as crooked as the Clintons have proven themselves to be, then using Trump's terminology, then it sort of stands to reason that you wouldn't want all of that to become public. So I feel the opposite view of yours, that she wanted less transparency, not transparency.
Okay, you know what? Your audio sounded great in the beginning, but then a couple seconds ago, like, did you move around or something? Do it change anything or move?
Maybe I moved, but I'm sitting right here.
Okay.
Well, how is it now? Because if it's not so good, I'd have to move and go find some headphones.
Yeah, try and find the headphones. Yeah, and I'll just fill in while you're finding that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just want to update everybody on Reverend Pinckney. I had a conversation with Reverend Pinckney yesterday, and we recorded. He called me from prison, and we played it last night on the show. And we got some good news. He has a bail hearing, an appellate bail hearing, or a motion going in this Monday coming up. So while this appeal is pending, because what happened was this. They filed this appeal last Wednesday, and we were talking about it. We had them on a show previous to that. Then Wednesday, they had the appeal hearing. ACLU was there. A lot of guys were there. A lot of good stuff went on. And they've decided that there's a similar case that's before the Supreme Court. This guy, Brandon Michael Hall, who has a similar kind of forgery case, and they think it should be treated not as a felony, but as a violation, which would be less than a misdemeanor. Okay, this would be great if this would be ruled that this kind of crime, the exact same kind of crime that Reverend Pinckney was wrongfully convicted of, would be considered a violation. Then he would walk out the prison the same day once we get that ruling back from the Supreme Court. But otherwise, too, while we're waiting for this appeal to come, because it is before the Supreme Court already, and it could take a long time. It went before the Supreme Court in January. It could take up to a year. So we're hoping that Monday, this motion for an appellate bond will be granted. And then Reverend Pinckney will be able to get out on bond. And at that point, we need to raise money for him. So you go to bhbanco.org and make that donation. Dr. McKinney, you back? I hear rustling over there. I'm starting.
Is this better?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot better. It's a lot better.
Okay.
Now,
Great.
real quick, but first of all, this whole thing with the server, it totally circumvents the Freedom of Information Act because now it's useless.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Now, where are you?
I'm in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. And why are you there?
I'm teaching at a university here.
And what kind of course?
Well, I teach introductory political science, and I also teach graduate level, MBA level business courses. I teach entrepreneurship, leadership, organizational development, and I also teach introduction to political science.
Okay, very cool. So how long do you think you're going to be there?
Probably, if I'm lucky, if I'm able to do what I want to do, I will do that for probably another year.
Okay.
And then try and figure out a way to come home.
Okay. Well, they may not let you out, right?
They may not let me in.
Oh, no. Well, not if someone announces that they want you for their vice presidential candidate.
Well, now, of course, under those circumstances, they wouldn't have any choice but to let me in because everything they do, which is, part of the reason that I'm here is part of the soft repression that never stopped. And our country is literally changing before our eyes. And it's almost as if the people have nothing that they can do to stop these changes. It's not that we are against change, but we definitely are against this kind of change. And what kind of change are we talking about? We're talking about the kind of change that allows the complete destruction of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the freedoms. I was going to ask you, if you're a PI, what happened to our freedom? Where is our freedom?
You're so right, especially because when I was a young PI in New York City, working for criminal defense lawyers, one of our biggest avenues for defense was the Fourth Amendment. Let's attack the search warrant. Now it's unheard of. It's a waste of time. Nobody even talks about it. It's a big difference. It's not that long. We're talking 30 years that the Fourth Amendment's just gone. Yeah.
Well, and and this is what you do, so
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and so it's a kind of terror that can be wreaked on the people, and we don't have any recourse. We're just being subjected to this kind of terrorism against us. And what do? All we do is try and assert the rights that we used to have, only to find out that they've changed. They changed on us.
Now, living in Bangladesh, how do you compare freedoms there to freedoms here in the United States?
Oh, well, this is something that's going on all over the world. And it seems as if there's, how can I say, a transnational push against toward authoritarianism, toward even in some cases totalitarianism, and so the prerogatives of government just take precedence over our rights. That's the way it seems, and that is without distinction, I think, whether you're in the U.S. or you're in Bangladesh or you're in some European country for that matter. I had some European friends who were targeted, how can I say, they were, what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm still not awake, but the houses were gone knocking door to door. How can I say that? There was a door-to-door canvassing, knocking on the door, and this was done in the Netherlands. And so my friends left the Netherlands because they thought that the Netherlands was a place of tranquility and the assertion of their rights. And all of a sudden, the security forces are going door to door, knocking on people's doors, just, sort of snooping. And this was like unprecedented. So it's happening, this tightening of the screws on average ordinary people is happening all over the world. So is it bad in some places? Yes. Is it worse in some places? Absolutely. But for the United States, I think it's absolutely worse because it's not supposed to happen in the U.S.
Yeah, and we've seen an increase in the shooting deaths of unarmed men, in the streets, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens over and over and over. A guy like Eric Garner, being choked on camera right there, right in front of our eyes on Staten Island, where I grew up, Yeah.
And so we have the problem now with women being targeted by the police. And so you've got women who are being killed on the side of the road. Or
that's true.
Whatever, It's just, it's a tragic situation that the political system is supposed to prevent, and yet the political system actually is facilitating this kinds of egregious human rights violations.
Now, do you have any kind of encouragement? Do you have any hope when you see something like Bernie Sanders and you see someone like Trump and sort of like the little guy is trying to get into the system and kind of waking up, maybe a little misdirected, but like I always thought, because when Bernie first showed up, because me, I'm on the left. When I first saw Bernie show up, I said, well, listen, he's not saying everything.
I thought you were on the right.
Yeah, right. I look at Castro with a suspicious eye. Okay. Listen.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now listen. And I said, listen, he may not be perfect, but we take these people they're not afraid of the word socialist, first of all, right? And we take these people and we can organize these people that are behind them. Okay, and next time around they're going to be more radical. We move them further to the left. And I've met these people at these rallies, the Bernie rallies, and this is a smart crowd of not just young people, all ages. And it's a very literate crowd, very smart crowd. Now, do you see any hope in that for our future?
Well, absolutely I do. You're correct that on some issues, Bernie just isn't there and hasn't been there. And, so the record on the endless wars, the support for the Zionist state, the voting record reflects, I think, a previous Bernie who didn't give much consideration to that. The idea that he would say that Hugo Chavez is a dead dictator. I mean, these things indicate that this is someone who's clearly not paying attention to what's going on in the world, and the votes for Israel's multiple wars against Gaza, against the people of Gaza, and the treatment of the Palestinians indicate someone who just went along to go along and maybe believe the hype. But during the course of this campaign, I have seen Bernie Sanders grow as an individual into at least an acknowledgement Not that his previous position was wrong, which he doesn't have to do, but to at least acknowledge that, there is a problem with Gaza and the Palestinians and Israel. There is a problem with these wars. He hasn't yet taken the step, we're going to cut the Pentagon budget. He hasn't gone that far. But the fact that he is articulating, say, 85% of what you or I would articulate is fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. And the fact that maybe he started at 75% and he's moved up another 10%, that is fabulous as well. It bodes well for him as a person who can become more knowledgeable about the issues and then adjust, staying within his own moral compass, but adjust his position based on new information and the garnering of new facts. So this is something that's fabulous for us, and I agree that he should go all the way, because imagine if Bernie Sanders goes into the Democratic Convention tied with Hillary in terms of the pledged votes, and so the difference between Bernie and Hillary basically goes to the superdelegates. In a situation like that, it is absolutely impossible for the Democratic Party to do the Democratic thing, the small d Democratic thing, which is to reject Hillary Clinton, because the forces are going to be so great. But that is exactly what the Democratic Convention ought to do. It ought to reject Hillary Clinton. Plus, she's got at least 3 outstanding investigations on her, and her chief of staff. Nobody's even talking about what they did in Haiti, which I wrote a whole piece about for RT, which is available at rt.com, about how Cheryl Mills literally changed the outcome of the Haitian elections. Now, if they would do that to the Haitian people, imagine they're not going to not do it to the American people. And in fact, that's exactly what's happening. They're subverting democratic principles for their own personal gain. And that's what they did in Haiti, and now that's what they're doing in the U.S.
It's funny, while you're talking, I'm making little notes, and when you're talking about how Bernie's coming along, but you gotta take your hat off when the man stands up during the middle of the debate and practically chokes on the name of Henry Kissinger and starts spitting out all of Henry Kissinger's crimes. Like, when's the last time you heard that? In a mainstream media debate, you don't hear it anywhere. And in the other one, when you were continuing talking, I made a note here. So we were saying, well, what can happen at the convention? I made a note here, FBI. That's what we're hoping,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and the Obama administration just needs to allow the investigation to go wherever it may. But I can already list out the crimes that were. How did Hillary Clinton's brother end up with a gold mine in Haiti when the Haitian people have consistently rejected mining gold? Because when the U.S. military troops occupied Haiti, they stole the gold. And the Haitian people have consistently said, we are not going to mine any more gold until we get our gold back from the Federal Reserve. So how does that happen? How does the Clinton administration, the Clinton Secretary of Stateship, not only end up with a gold mine for her brother, but also donors to the Clinton Foundation end up with contracts in Haiti? How does this happen when based on the testimony of the Haitian President commission, the president of the Presidential Election Commission, that she read out the wrong leader of the elections, and he said he was too afraid to challenge it. He was afraid to say they know the next guy is going to be Secretary Clinton is going to give to them the same treatment that Hugo Chavez got. And this is 2010 when this happened. So the multiple affronts to the sovereignty of Venezuela during Hugo Chavez's tenure as president. And then you've got what happened in Haiti to start with, which was the kidnapping by the U.S. of the president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. So they had more than enough examples of what the U.S. was capable of doing to intimidate them into silence, and that's exactly what happened. It was a complete subversion of the right of the Haitian people to self-determination. And that's what we're experiencing in the U.S. right now. It's the Clintons today, but who's to say that it's the Clintons today in the Obama administration today, as it was with the Bush administrations of yesterday.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. In about a week, I'm going to be taping with a woman named Baker about the situation in Haiti as well.
Okay.
You know her, right? Yeah, she's a lawyer. Now, what I know of Haiti is this. When they first had that big earthquake, I guess it was like 2010, 2012, right around that time, right? My friends who were NYPD cops and firemen went down there to help. And then more recently, some people from my church went down there too to help again, just very recently. And nothing's been fixed. You go from the airport, there's no electricity, and people are lined up on the side of the road begging. It's just a horrific situation. Now, I know about that firsthand, and I know about this situation with the minimum wage, that Hillary Clinton prevented them from raising their minimum wage from 30 cents an hour to 60 cents an hour. But can you give us map out the whole thing of what the Clinton crimes have been in Haiti from start to finish?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I probably need to pull up my article so I can refresh my memory. But if we restrict ourselves to just Clinton, then I would, wait a minute. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, if we restrict ourselves to just Clinton, I hope you don't hear that. Do you hear that?
No, I hear nothing. In fact, your audio sounds much better now.
Oh, okay, great. Well, if we restrict ourselves to just Clinton, then it would not just be while Hillary was Secretary of State, but also while her husband was president. So that was the time during which the Clintons just began to treat Haiti as if it were their personal property, and that the Haiti became a vassal state, as it were, for the Clinton family. And, they talked about, we had our honeymoon there, and so we have this special affinity. But the special affinity is actually turned into the scourge for the Haitian people. So let me see if I can find the article that I wrote. I've written several for RT on Hillary Clinton's path to the White House. But let me find the one that here it is.
There you go.
It's Democracy Denied, U.S. Turning Haiti into Another Vassal State. And so I talk about the gold mine. I start off with the admission of Robert Baer. Are you familiar with him and how he's the former CIA guy who just admitted that, yeah, we did everything that we could to destroy Yugoslavia?
He's not the same guy from the Franklin cover-up.
No.
Okay. No, then I'm not familiar with him, no.
Okay, yeah. So he's a former CIA guy, and he describes how the U.S. brought democracy to Yugoslavia by destroying Yugoslavia. And you can look at that and say, oh, wow. Well, that's exactly what the U.S. has done to Libya, Syria, Ukraine. You bring quote unquote democracy, so you understand that first of all, that the democracy they're bringing is just rhetorical only. It's not in reality. But with respect to Haiti, then you've got the situation with the Presidential Election Commission, where Cheryl Mills was the chief of staff of the Secretary of State. She read out the wrong election results, which meant that the people of Haiti had to suffer through 5 years of a president that they didn't elect. Kind of like what the U.S. did with George W. Bush, where the Supreme Court paved the way for us for 8 years of a president that we didn't elect. And then before that, so the current situation in Haiti has been a continued obstruction of democracy because the current leader, who is en route to becoming the president of Haiti, has scrapped the whole process because of interference again from the Clinton State Department. And so the Clinton State Department has interfered because the person that they stole the election from in 2010 was, his name is Jude Celestin. And so he decided to run again, and they've stolen it again. Now, what was the crime that Celestin committed? The crime that he committed was that he was close to Hugo Chavez. And so the criticism of the U.S. back in 2010 was that Celestin was too close to Hugo Chavez, and therefore he shouldn't be the president of Haiti, despite the fact that the people of Haiti voted for him. Okay, so in order to secure their ill-gotten president, what the Clinton Department of State did was then they gave $100,000 to an organization to further solidify, and that organization was a partisan organization for the support of Martelli, who was the insulting presidential candidate that the Clintons made the president of Haiti. He has a nickname called Sweet Mickey, and he's an entertainer. So the Haitian people were subjected to the leadership of an entertainer as opposed to someone who loved his country. I happen to know Jude Celestin very well, and who is a patriot for his country and would not compromise on the sovereignty of Haiti. So you've got the subversion of one election and the thwarting of the subsequent election, which is the election that has been delayed now because of continued Clinton interference in the right of self-determination of the Haitian people. So you've got the obstruction, then you've got the $100,000 donation. Then you also have a situation where the Clinton Foundation is in the peanut business. And this is not a not-for-profit. This is a for-profit enterprise raising money, the thing that makes me suspicious is they've got the smiling black man. Whenever you see a smiling black man, he's really being oppressed. And they've got the smiling black man on the welcome page for the Peanut Enterprise Corporation that's a part of the Clinton Foundation. And this is a Clinton Foundation donor who's...
I think I just lost you. Can you hear me at all, Cynthia? Oh.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, good. You're good. You're fine.
And so this is a for-profit enterprise in Haiti that is under the umbrella of the Clinton Foundation. What are they doing? Then, of course, this is the serial destruction of the Haitian right of self-determination. I go on to talk about Jude Celestin and how the U.S. Embassy in Haiti has tried to strong-arm the situation. And, of course, the situation with the United Nations peacekeepers is a direct result of the President Bill Clinton's abduction of the Haitian president. So Jean-Bertrand Aristide was abducted, and then the United Nations troops were sent in as occupation troops, and they remain today. I just read that the Brazilians are having second thoughts about occupying Haiti, and I wish that the Brazilian government, the Brazilian government itself is under a destabilization effort because of its participation in BRICS. And so you look and you see that all of the BRICS countries are being destabilized. That's Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And of course, so we know what's going on with Russia. The United States Pentagon has claimed Russia as a threat to the well-being of the American people, which we know that's not true. This is in a bid to rekindle the Cold War. We know that the United States is directly meddling in China's affairs, not only its domestic affairs, but also within the South China Sea. The United States is conducting patrols at how much cost to the U.S. taxpayer patrolling the South China Sea, so as in an effort to contain, quote unquote, contain, going back to 1948, George Kennan policy of containment of China. And then, of course, the policy of rollback, which was advocated more by Paul Nitze, which was an aggressive policy to roll back the gains that were made in the area of self-determination by other countries. So we see that going on with Venezuela right now. But all of this has its roots in the Bill Clinton administrations, the two Clinton administrations, and now we're supposed to be welcoming a third one.
Now, you mentioned that there's UN troops in Haiti.
Yes.
Now, is anything being done to rebuild Haiti from this earthquake? Because nothing's changed.
Well, President Hugo Chavez, made the allegation that the United States has weapons that are capable of creating earthquakes. And so there have been other scientists also who say that the United States has the capability of creating earthquakes. So that is an issue. Well, what exactly was going on? We also know that fracking produces earthquakes. And was the United States engaged in some illegal, because it had not been granted by Jean-Bertrand Aristide, but was the U.S. involved in some illegal mining in Haiti that caused the earthquake? Those are questions that we don't know. Well, we do know about the equipment. We know that from the scientists. But was this something that was deliberately targeted at Haiti, or was this just an accident that happened as a result of mining or something else? We don't know that either. But the fact of the matter is that we do know that between the Red Cross and the Clinton-Bush initiatives for Haiti, that I think $1 billion were raised. And from what I have read, only 6 houses were built.
And people should know, too, that Haiti is attached to the Dominican Republic. There's 2 countries on like one island.
On the one island.
And right. And there's no, Dominican Republic's, it's still a poor country, but they're not living under these kind of conditions that Haiti is living under. I'm just stuttering here because you tell me that they raised $1 billion and they built 6 homes.
Yes, that is what has been written publicly, that 6 houses have been built.
I think my little church here in Staten...
But now, wait a minute. Remember Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
And the situation with Hurricane Katrina. How much money was raised for Hurricane Katrina? And the Katrina residents, the Red Cross, admitted that they took the money in for Katrina and they spent it elsewhere or didn't spend it at all. So I wouldn't give the Red Cross not one red penny that is not worth a penny any longer. But I wouldn't give the Red Cross a penny, and I would give the Clinton Foundation less than a penny.
Well, I don't think any normal people who would normally donate to a charity give any money to the Clintons. It's all mostly big, giant people who want favors and stuff, right?
Well, I think I saw something, I'll guess on the low side, but I think it was something like $100 million during the time that Secretary Clinton was Secretary of State. So, this is an amazing, somebody has written a book called Griftopia.
Oh, yeah.
And, this phenomenon of grifting, going from place to place. And, I guess they learn from the best. So you've got these pernicious influences, financial influences that go from country to country, and they steal, rob the country blind, and then they go to the next country and they do the same thing. And this is what happened to Russia in the 1990s between Gorbachev and Yeltsin. And so it's just their turn to do it to the U.S., and so they're doing it to the U.S. now. And after the U.S. has been wrung completely dry, people have nothing in the U.S., then they'll move to someplace else. The indications are that they'll move to China, and they'll wring the Chinese dry. I'm hoping that the Chinese won't let them come in won't let them slither in to steal everything from them. But this is kind of this griftopia, this grifting kind of behavior that is taking place, and the people are the ones who are suffering.
The Clintons are such shameless criminals that I could see a time 10 years from now where every Christmas they'll have people out there ringing bells with the Clinton Foundation in front of the store, in front of the supermarket. All the Christmas shoppers, give us your cash so we could send it someplace else. Meanwhile, it's going into their own Swiss bank accounts. Hey, did they come up there? They did come up on those Panama bank accounts. What do you know about that?
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I haven't had a chance to really look at them. I've got them pulled up.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to search. But I didn't think that the Clintons came up. Did they come up?
I think Leon Podesta, either Podesta or Panetta.
Oh yeah,
Podesta came up, right? Yeah.
Right. And, I know these people, and yeah. Yeah. So okay.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Okay. Well,
yeah.
the media. Okay, because I'm here in Nevada, I'm here in Las Vegas, and we just had this big scandal here last week where it was just so obvious the Clintons just, robbed our vote. It was just, like a train robbery.
Yes.
Now, but the media is totally under their grip. Now, do you understand what's the mechanism? How does that work? I know on MSNBC there's this young woman, she's like an Indian woman, and her name's like Kristen, something like that, and she just seems to, like, you can just see from the start of her covering the Clintons till today, now she's just in bed with them, like she's their spokesperson. How does that work? How do they control the media like in such a powerful way?
Well, one of them's wife is the lawyer that the Clinton campaign has hired for all of the Clinton staffers that are being deposed right now by the FBI.
Okay.
And I can't remember. I think that's.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, Chris Matthews.
Okay, maybe. No, his wife is running for Congress.
Okay.
It's somebody on NBC or something. I can't remember now.
Okay.
But so yeah, Chris Matthews becomes compromised because, of course, he wants to become a part of actually, in many respects, the media at a certain level, you have the White House Correspondents' Dinner and everybody wants to go and everybody wants, So if you're a part of the merry-go-round, that circus of the, merry-go-round circus, then you...
Yeah, you just dropped that again. I just totally lost you just now. That Bangladesh, we have to get some Clinton Foundation funds over to Bangladesh. She's online. Cynthia, can you hear me at all? Maybe I lost Danny too. Okay, hold on while we get this call back, it says. It doesn't quite yet. I think we're trying to get Cynthia McKinney back online here. We just lost her because she's in Bangladesh. And the Clintons may have cut the phone lines down there. They have their operatives down there in Bangladesh out in front of Cynthia McKinney's apartment. I wonder if she lives in an apartment I think she does live in an apartment. She told me last time we were talking. Because we tried to book a show with I should be saying Dr. Cynthia McKinney. Because I tried to butter up doctors in case I need a prescription. But she's not that kind of doctor. Oh, Cynthia, you're back. Dr. McKinney. Dr. McKinney, you're back. Thank you.
Look at this political system that is being touted around the world by the U.S. as the best political system possible.
Oh, we just lost her again. Just lost her again. It says, hold on while this connection, get this call back. We actually tried to do a show one whole week. We spent a whole week trying to record a show with Dr. McKinney. And we just had this problem. Call after call. We tried at 7 in the because it would be 7 in the morning my time and 7 at night her time. Like right now, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning her time, or even earlier. So
it's also what Libya used to have, so that people themselves decide the budget, they decide what's important, they decide the policies, and so you have direct democracy. There is a mechanism that is possible for direct democracy if one would choose to have that, rather than an indirect democracy where the people say, oh, I have the power. This is democracy. I have the power, and then the people willingly take the power that they have and give it to someone to exercise on their behalf. And then when they want health care, for example, they have to go to those people and say, oh, please, 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 give me health care, give me health care, when they actually had the power themselves. But they gave the power away because they've been connived into thinking that that particular system is the best political system for them. But basically, it's not the best political system for them. For example, we have 435, 500 35 members of Congress. And so if you get 270 votes, then you basically control, 300 million people? That's the system that we have. Indirect democracy, a republic, is that some entity or entities can control 270 votes in the Congress and thereby control 300 million people. Now, does that even make sense when you look at it that way, which is the objective reality that we're all living? Does it make sense?
Well, what are you recommending then?
I'm recommending direct democracy of the sort that the Jamahiriya represented. The United States went to war against the Jamahiriya because the Jamahiriya gave a voice, and this is in Libya, sorry.
Okay.
Because the Jamahiriya gave a voice to every Libyan, and every Libyan could determine, okay, we want to use our oil revenues to subsidize education. And when I went there, they were deciding, do we want to use the oil revenues to subsidize education, or do we want to use the oil revenues to subsidize the price of gasoline? This was the issue that was before the Libyan people when I was there, which was before the bombing took place. And so then every Libyan had a mechanism by which they voted. This is the system that was under attack, because you cannot have people who were formerly colonized, you can't have them with the kind of sovereignty that allows them to make decisions about their money and their resources themselves.
Cynthia, let me ask you a question, because we're coming up to a break in about 5 minutes. Do you think after the break you can give me another 10 minutes or so, or do you think...
I know you need another 10 minutes, but today...
Okay.
and I have to participate in the forum, and I have a ton of things I need to do today.
Listen, everyone's used to me getting a guest on and begging for more time, so don't worry. I'm shameless, but I have a ton of notes here I could talk about after you have to go. So listen, so we're down to about 3 minutes or 4 minutes. What do you want to leave us with? Give us some hope.
Well, the hope is that the average ordinary voter in the United States does not have a stake in the continued sustenance of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. And now we have a unique opportunity through Trump and Sanders to disrupt them both, and we should do that.
I heard you on Alex Jones. You sent me a clip you wanted me to listen to.
Oh, did I? I didn't remember that I did that. Okay.
I thought I had a better impression upon you. That I thought you thought about me all the time. Let me ask a question.
What's going on?
I know. I'm just teasing you.
And it's Sunday morning for me. You see, it's still Saturday night for you.
That's right. I'm just getting ready to start partying. Now let me. But I heard you were kind of sympathetic to Trump. Now you're not like so just disgusted by this man that you just can't stomach him.
No.
Really?
No, because I understand that that's all a part of the hype. I'm looking at what does this candidacy do to the system? Let's step back and take a systemic view of what's happening now. Bernie Sanders' continued challenge of Hillary Clinton is a direct challenge to the funders of the Democratic Party. And it is an insurgency that helps the base voter of the Democratic Party, because the base voter has been betrayed by the Democratic Party, as has the base voter of the Republican Party. So the base voter of the Republican Party and the base voter of the Democratic Party have everything to gain by the destabilization, or you can call it asymmetric warfare, giving to the U.S. what the U.S. military gives to other countries, the asymmetric warfare against the powers that be that control the U.S. politics today.
Cynthia McKinney, that's the music telling us that you got to go.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I love you, Cynthia. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we'll be right back with more. I'll fill the time all by myself. I don't care. I can do it. I did it last night. Okay, we'll be more after this. Be right back after this.
All clear.
Okay, yeah, but Danny, don't forget, you got to keep playing the music and stuff so it plays over the other stations.
Oh, okay. You want to? Okay, I'll leave the feed on.
Thank you, brother.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotics.
Freedom.
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. HempUSA.org introduces 3 brand new detox formulations of microplant powder. Brain Fuel for depression, bipolar disorders, and stress. Total Care, anti-cancer agent that cleans the liver and organs and increases memory. Rejuvenate, invigorates and heals the body, mind, and spirit. These products are your alternative to pharmaceuticals. Call 888-910-4367 and like us on Facebook. We ship worldwide. Only at HempUSA.org.
The last hour of American Freedom Radio you have been listening to is proudly sponsored in part by BigReggaeMix.com, the global healing station.
Produced by Mitch Santel and executive produced by none other than Errol Brown, winner of 5 Grammy Awards and the last producer and engineer of Bob Marley. Visit us now at BigReggaeMix.com for the latest show schedule, updates, and blog postings. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, too. BigReggaeMix.com.
Everybody talking about gun control. Gotta get rid of the guns. I like guns. You got a gun, you don't have to work out. I ain't working out. I ain't jogging. You don't need no gun control. You know what you need? We need some bullet control. We need to control the bullets. That's right. I think all bullets should cost $5,000. You know why? Because if a bullet costs $5,000, there'll be no more innocent bystanders. Every time somebody gets shot, you be like, damn, he must have did something. So they put $50,000 worth of bullets in his hand. And people would think before they kill somebody, if a bullet costs $5,000, man, I would blow your head off if I could afford it. I'm gonna get me another job, I'm gonna start saving some money, and you a dead man.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow. Friendships to flourish with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio and service to the community with strength, wisdom and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs, and artillery batteries not included.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, no fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio, American Freedom Radio.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. And there's nothing more fun than having a whole hour to kill. Okay, of live radio. Okay, you know what I tell you? I really love Cynthia McKinney. I'll tell you a quick story, real quick. But before I do, I just want to remind everybody tonight. It's starting, I think, right now, 6 o'clock, and it'll be going on for a few hours out in front of the Bellagio Fountains on the Las Vegas Strip. There's going to be a silent vigil about how the Democratic National Party committee here in Clark County, Nevada, stole our votes. You know, I did a whole hour on it last night, but people are still very, 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 very upset. And if you listen to the show last night, too, I went off on this Angie Morelli, who's just being taken for a ride. And now today I see her on CNN, and the host is interviewing her, and he just got this smile on his face waiting for her to give up another... Anyway. Cynthia McKinney, one of my favorite guests, for sure. And we've been spending a lot of time trying to record a show, either in the morning or at night, and sometimes I got to go, either for me it's early in the morning, or for her it's early in the morning, or for me it's night, it's her at night. And then we try and do it, and then we've had so many really, really, really bad Skype connections, we just gave up. And then she did the show with Alex Jones, and she says, hey, you know, let's try it. Let's see if we can do it. So I begged her to come on for 2 hours, but I knew she would only do 1 hour, so I have some stuff prepared. I'm not an amateur at this, you know. I'm not a professional either, but I'm not an amateur at this stage. Been doing the show for 4 years. I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I was going to book Cynthia McKinney on the show, I was so excited, you know. And I said, oh, man, I got a former Congresswoman going to come on the show. This is the coolest thing in the world. And this is when I was doing the show, the first station I was on a long, long time ago. And as a matter of fact, I think she was like the first African-American guest that they ever had on that station. Okay, because there was a whole big brouhaha going on in the chat room about this black woman coming on the station, you know. I don't think they ever had one over there before that. But I had her on the show a few times. And so I'm doing my research on Cynthia McKinney, because I never talked to her in person. We just sent a couple emails back and forth inviting her on the show. And she said yes. I said, let me prepare. So I started watching all the videos, you know, and there's these really intense videos where she's like interrogating Rumsfeld, you know, in Congress. And she's like, oh, Mr. Rumsfeld, what can you tell us? And she knows every little detail about the stuff they're talking about, you know. And I was so impressed. I says, wow, she must have some staff. But she told me, she says, no, I know, because I used to read these bills. And then I would read these reports and these findings, and then I would question them. You know, I really took it serious. So that first interview, you should check it out. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. Because I talked to her too about how do these lobbyists approach you and try and pay you off? And I said, what, they take you out to dinner? You know, how does it work? What's the mechanism? And she says, well, with AIPAC, with the Israeli lobby, they send you a fax. They send you a fax and says, sign here if you check all these things off. If you agree with these things and you're willing to promote our proposal, we'll send you this amount of money every month. You know, it's as simple as that. And that's a fascinating interview. But I'm watching her being all like real strict, you know, and being all serious with these congressional hearings. And I got so scared. I says, oh no, this is what happens if she comes on the show and I say something wrong and she gets mad at me and she starts talking to me that way. What'll I do? I was terrified. You guys have no idea. I was really scared. Okay. And, back in those days, you contacted the guest on Skype like 5 minutes before the show. Cause it was like Danny does it here at American Freedom Radio. It's kind of, he runs the board, you know, and you just kind of log in and you do it. And I don't control the calls and stuff. And as soon as we did, she came online. And she had this big, giant smile on her face. And it was so relaxing. and we chatted a little bit before the show. And I got to tell you something. It's the kind of smile that you see on a person that is genuine. It's 100%. There's no phoniness in this woman, you know, and it really meant a lot to me. And we had a very enjoyable show. That was our first show. It's funny, we were talking right before she had to go in Bangladesh. We were talking about how, I guess it's called direct democracy, where everyone has, it's one person, one vote, and you don't have like the Electoral College, you don't have the representatives, House representatives, and it's all one person voting for everything. I forget what she described it as, something that they did in Libya. Fabian or something like that. Wasn't familiar with the term. But it brought back to my memory, way back in the 80s, when cable TV was first getting started. They had this program, this project that they were testing, like a beta testing thing that they were doing in Washington, D.C. with the cable access, the cable. And what they did was everyone who had service with this cable company had a little box inside their home, you know, and it was a crude little box with like 4 buttons on it, you know. And he says, and what we can do with this is people can instantly push one of these buttons and vote on what they want. You know, they could vote on a bill in Congress. They could vote on what TV show to play over the cable station. Do you want to watch Pretty Woman? Do you want to watch MASH? Do you want to watch porno? And porno would probably win every time. But these 4 buttons, you know. And it was such a big deal about this. That, well, it's new. It's going to change everything. You never hear about it. You never hear about that anymore. Because God forbid, if they did have that, if they had this, first of all, now they would have the technology that they could steal our buttons and everyone could push the first button, but they'll record it as everyone pushing the 4th button, like the Clinton button, right? But you never hear that anymore. And they said, because you know what, man, if people could vote, they would vote out the whole Congress. They would kick the president out. They would vote in Bernie Sanders probably, you know? So very interesting how she brought that up. Another thing she brought up, I'm going to call this segment of the show tribute to the last hour of the show, is about Bush was not elected in 2000. And I happen to know a little bit about something about that. And it's kind of interesting because by coincidence, Cynthia McKinney is the one who ran the congressional hearings about the same topic. Now, as a private investigator, and she kept bringing it up, I was a PI, you subscribe to these database services. Some of them you may have heard of, like NoX and Accurate, LexisNexis, ChoicePoint. These are some of the bigger ones, right? But there's also some lesser-known ones. And there's a company now called TLO. And before that, it was called, at one point it was called IRB when it was big. And it was this big company that made a lot of money. And the guy that ran it was this interesting character. He had some kind of cocaine smuggling background. And he was buddies. He's dead now. He just died in the past 3 years. And he was buddies with John Walsh, you know, from America's Most Wanted. Because they both came together on one of his private planes to the PI convention here in 2003 to discuss the database, you know, service. Because when he started IRB, he did this thing where you could do a locate, a people search for like 8 cents, I think it was, or 10 cents. Then it went up to 25 cents, you know, which normally it goes for like $1.50, $2, you know. And what that, anyway, it's a basic search where you can search for people by name, age, social security number, address, and by either one, and you'll find the guy and you'll locate them. So, but at the time of the 2000 election, he had a company called IRB. I forget this guy's name. He's a legendary guy in this business. And IRB joined with a company called ChoicePoint to form a third company in partnership. And I think it was called something like EBT or ETB, something like that. It was a stupid little name. And everyone heard about this. I guess word gets around. And everyone was saying, well, boy, this is exciting. These two companies joining together, now they'll have more access to more databases and more services. How do we sign up? How do we get, who has access to this? Hey, have you heard of this? What's going on? And it was even written about in PI Magazine at the time. And I used to write for PI Magazine back when it was in Private Investigators Magazine. And so it came out that no, this is the two companies are coming together. It's for a limited purpose. And it's not going to be available to the general investigator community. See, not everybody can sign up to these companies. You either need a PI license, you got to have a process server's license or a bill collector's license. You have to be in one of these types of businesses to be able to access these databases because you get access to full Social Security numbers and stuff and criminal records checks, all kinds of stuff like that. So what was this that these two companies were doing? And what it turned out to be was this third company, this third joint company, the sole purpose of this company was to create a database of criminal records in the state of Florida. And what they did was, let's say you got a guy named John W. Smith, right? You got one guy named John W. Smith. Let's say John Wayne Smith. John Wayne Smith, right? And then you got another guy named Joe Wayne Smith. And you got another guy named Jim William Smith, right? Now let's say one of these guys is a felony. These are three different guys, three different ages, three different addresses, right? One of these guys, John Wayne Smith, has a felony conviction on his record. What this third company did was, and I don't think there's anybody on earth that can explain to you the way this works, that has an understanding of how the vote in Florida was stolen. If John Wayne Smith has a felony conviction, you can create a database that when you search for John Wayne Smith to have a felony, it'll pull up J.W. Smith, Jim W. Smith, Jim William Smith. All those different combinations, all those different possible combinations will come up as possibly having a felony conviction. Now, you don't want that. You want it to be more accurate. So you put another scrubbing. You scrub it down further by age and Social Security number, last 4 digits, different things like that, so that you're not accusing people wrongly of having a felony conviction. Because, by the way, if you do, especially for employment screening purposes, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble doing that. Okay? You wind up behind a lawsuit. And by the way, as you guys know, too, I used to do that. I used to do employment screening. That was one of my big companies that I had. And I actually taught a class on it, too, at one of the PI conventions. So that's what they did down there in Florida. These two companies got together and they created pretty much a Fugazi database that took a lot of people, Democrats mostly, and gave them all felony convictions. So that the voting, whatever was ever in charge of voting stuff down there, I guess it would be the voting commission, whatever, right? Who runs the election down in Florida would disqualify all these voters off the voting rolls for having felony convictions, possible felony convictions, when they didn't. They just had a name similar to a guy that did. And that's how they were able to steal Florida. These two companies, Choice Point and IRB. And what's interesting is that after this was accomplished and George Bush got in, Choice Point got a $1 billion contract to create a DNA database to identify victims of 9/11 in New York City. Okay? That was kind of like their payoff. I don't know what IRB's payoff was. The poor guy, he's dead now and his company's in bankruptcy. In fact, it was ordered. Kind of interesting how, when you do favors with these big shots, sometimes they come after you and destroy your family. Because although this guy was loaded, these database companies, they get a lot of their information from the three major credit reporting agencies. It's called a credit header portion of your credit report, where you put down, when you fill out an application for credit or employment, or you want to rent an apartment, you want to buy a car, and you fill out that application. You put down where you work, your work location. You put down your phone number. You put down your social security number. Sometimes you put down your age. Sometimes you don't. You put down address, previous address. All that portion of your credit report can be sold. And that's where these database companies like ChoicePoint and IRB and Locate Plus and Accurate and all these companies, that's where they get that information. They buy those credit headers, and then they combine all that information, and then they sell it. That's how you do those instant locates, instant database locates. I hope I made sense. But that's how they stole. And just by coincidence, I happen to know those guys, and I knew the whole story. And turns out Cynthia McKinney was the one who ran the congressional investigation regarding that crime. Okay, Bush being elected. Okay, let's see. Interesting thing came up in the chat room while I was talking to Dr. McKinney, and she was talking about Cheryl Mills, who worked for Clinton, involving all this Haiti stuff. And they're telling me in the chat room that if you go to wikileaks.org, Clinton emails, that there's a Cheryl Mills email in there that exists that talks about Hillary Clinton going into the backyard to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch. Okay? Now, I haven't seen I haven't seen this email. And I'm not even sure if I trust everything that's in wikileaks.org. But it's just fascinating because a couple of people, this discussion came up in one of the chat rooms here. And it seems like they looked it up and they found it. Now, one thing, too, I want to talk about here that I disagree with Cynthia McKinney about. We don't all agree about everything. We're not all just sitting around. Like the Beatles, on Hard Day's Night when they all lived together, Right? Not everybody agrees. Some people don't agree. Okay. But she was saying how I asked her, hey. Oh, no, it wasn't Hillary who was going back to sacrifice a chicken. It was Cheryl Mills saying that she was going to go back to sacrifice a chicken. Very interesting. It's just been clarified in one of the chat rooms here. Got my information wrong. Got my facts incorrect. Sorry about that. Okay. I want to say one more thing, too, real quick before I get into this thing about Trump. Is that last night I did a whole report about my viewpoint of what has gone on here in Nevada, from the caucus to the convention and how the votes were stolen. I mentioned a lot of local names of people here that are friends of mine, and some are not friends of mine. And so if I mention your name in that report and you feel I've said something that's incorrect, give me a call or send me an email, oppermanreport@gmail.com, and you can try and clarify it, and maybe I put you on the air. You can tell me how I'm wrong. I would love to hear that. I was talking to Cynthia McKinney, and I said to her, hey, Trump, you can look at this guy and not be so disgusted that you can't stomach him and everything he represents, this disgusting man. And she says, no, I can't, because I guess she sees him as sort of kind of a populist. But I got to tell you something, guys. I did a show in the members section with this woman named Libby, who did a documentary about Trump, right? And it's in the members section at oppermanreport.com. You could check it out. There's some audio troubles in the second portion, but there's a good 1 hour there that came out fine. And in her documentary, the documentary is available on iTunes, okay? So right now, if you Google Libby Trump documentary, it'll probably pop up right away for you. And you could find it. You could buy it on iTunes for a couple of bucks. There was stuff in that documentary that I had forgotten all about. And it's about Trump's business dealings back in New York back in the 80s. Now, back in New York in the late 70s and the 80s, they did this. They passed some kind of law or whatever it was. I don't know what it was. But there was a thing where people who owned apartment buildings could convert them to condos or co-ops. So if you owned a building with, say, 100 apartments in it, and you're making $750 from each apartment, you could, in one day, say, well, from now on, I'm going to sell each one of these individual apartments for $100,000. People were making tons of money because you were getting, a building you couldn't get, you couldn't sell for that much. Suddenly you were getting for each apartment. It was huge. What do you call it? Windfall for these apartment building owners like the Trump family. But one of the problems you had in New York City is that the tenants who were renting in there, they had to be willing to leave. Okay? And so the landlords wanted to get these people out. And what they would do is they would commit these crimes. They would turn off services. They would stop the garbage pickups. They would stop doing repairs in the building and make things so miserable for people to make them get out so they would sell their apartments. And these are people that were elderly, they were poor, who couldn't afford to move, right? And there's a segment in here with Trump where he was trying to empty out one of his buildings so he can convert it to co-op or condo. And he was doing all the tricks. He was turning the power off and they were complaining about it. He was getting sued by the city. He was getting complaints and stuff like that. And he went on one of the news broadcasts and he says, you know something? I think that this building here, I think what we should do is convert these empty apartments into a homeless shelter and have homeless people come in there and let them be able to take showers. And so he brought in homeless people into this building where people lived just to come in for free and kind of destroy the place until he could empty the building out and cut these old widows and orphans out into the street. By the way, this is something happened, not by Trump. This is something happened to my own grandmother, She rented an apartment with my grandfather on East 86th Street, Manhattan. It was right by Central Park, and when it turned co-op or condo, as a matter of fact, I had the money. I should have bought it at the time. But, they kicked her out, and they were very, very brutal to her and very mean to all the tenants and stuff like that to kick them out to make this windfall. I'm the kind of guy I can never forgive that. Trump is one of the guys doing that. He was very vocal about it, very blatant about it, almost gleeful about how he was, committing these crimes and getting away with it. So I cannot ever endorse Trump. One of the things Cynthia McKinney mentioned Hugo Chavez, right? And I got a lot of email about Chavez and my support of socialism and stuff like that. And one thing people always say, it doesn't work. Just look at Venezuela. It doesn't work. Well, if it didn't work, why would there be so much effort from the U.S. government to overthrow the Venezuelan government? If socialism wasn't good for the people, if it didn't prevent these oligarchs from robbing the people of Venezuela, why are we overthrowing? Why are they expelling our diplomats from Venezuela for trying to they catch them in a plot that they're CIA agents and they're trying to destroy the power grid in Venezuela, and they kick a bunch of them out. And then a month later, the power grid goes down. So the plan they were working on succeeded. And then the poor guy dies of this cancer. His head's all swollen. He's cured. He goes to Cuba. They give him a bit of a cure. He goes back and it happens again. So people who say 100 years of socialism, it's failed every time. It's failed in some degrees every time because of what they're up against, And if they didn't have that constant agitation trying to overthrow their government, trying to take advantage of them every possible way and giving them cancer and embargoes and all this kind of stuff, we don't know if it would thrive on its own because it's never been tested. So people who are so quick to say, well, it's never worked, you got to take that into consideration. I was sent recently, because my one of the things I appreciate about the Venezuelan government under Hugo Chavez was that they nationalized the oil industry, and at one point down there, a gallon of gasoline was 11 cents a gallon. And if we were to do that here in the United States and nationalize the oil industry, we could get gasoline down to 50 cents a gallon, you know. And I think that would be such a huge stimulus to the economy where, and how that works is that the profits that would normally go to the stockholders you would use those profits to reduce the cost of the oil to the consumer. Or you could take that money and put it into a big giant fund like they did. Someone sent me a video, I think it was Denmark or something like that, where they nationalized the oil industry. And when you hit retirement age, you had a retirement account that you could retire on from the country's oil industry. Now, oil is a national resource. It's under all of our feet. So it should be shared by all of us equally, whether you own property or not. Or whether, back in the 1800s, you were able to build a railroad to get to California, and take that land and go to stop off in Texas and start drilling for oil. None of us had a fair shake to get access to that oil that now these few people control and have become multi-hundred billionaires, So, in my opinion, just like in Venezuela, we nationalized the oil industry. All the money that would go to stockholders would then go to either reduce the price of oil. We could probably do both and have some kind of a fund that every man, woman, and child would have maybe housing, or something. So beneficial to everyone. But even if you just lowered the cost of oil, of gasoline for everyone, that lowers the price of every single goods and services out there. The price of a tomato will go down. The price of beer goes down because it has to be trucked around and shipped all over the place. So that's my response to people who were constantly telling me, "Hey, socialism does not work because it's failed in Venezuela." When you have the biggest, most powerful country in the whole world trying to overthrow these tiny little countries, that's what happens. Okay, you know what? I'm running out of notes. So don't forget, we have tonight on the Las Vegas Strip, we have this silent vigil out in front of, what's that place called? The Bellagio. We had a rally there last week. About 400 people showed up throughout the day. This rally here today was pretty impromptu, but I'm sure there'll be at least a couple hundred people who will turn out. Okay, I'm getting a note here from Matt Winnicott that Norway, the people in Norway get a $200K retirement account for every person by, nationalizing the oil industry in Norway. If they could do it in Norway, you could do it here. What's that song? If you could make it there, you'll make it anywhere, right? So if we could do it in Norway, we could do it in New York or Las Vegas, and we could probably do it better, right? I always got to be careful because that guy out there, Sean Duff, is out there listening to everything I do. I sing a little song, and then he isolates it, and he puts it on in a little video there and makes a fool out of me. Okay, so you got to watch our step. But tonight, the pro-democracy people are out there. Both Hillary and Bernie supporters will be protesting at this silent vigil out in front of Bellagio, and it's going on right now. So you can get out there and show your support for that. Quick update on Reverend Pinckney. Like I said, I was trying to give a little update during the Cynthia McKinney section. Is that Monday there's going to be an appellate bond motion trying to get him an appellate bond because the appeal was successful. They're waiting until we hear back from the Supreme Court on this decision for this other guy here. There's Brandon Michael Hall, who has a similar forgery charge, but in his case they're saying that they cannot charge him with a felony because it's only a violation. It would be less than a misdemeanor, is my understanding. So if that's the case, good old Reverend Pinckney walks right out. So, and you can check that out at bhbanco.org. bhbanco.org. That's where you could find Reverend Pinckney. Okay, let's see. Now, I've been going over and over and over all this stuff that went on in Nevada. I went over it quite a bit last night. So I really don't want to talk about it again. We did a lot of stuff with that last night. Something's coming up this Wednesday. I'm going to be a guest on Chuck Ocelli on American Freedom Radio. I think he comes on at 5 o'clock. I'm pretty sure he comes on at 5 o'clock. And we're going to be talking about the Jeffrey Epstein case. Last night, I had a really interesting discussion with Conchita Sarnoff, who's the author of the book Traffic King, about the Jeffrey Epstein case. And I hope to have her back to come back on the show again. And I also hope to have her publisher, who is a former Mossad agent, come on the show and discuss his book. He wrote a book about using deception in, I guess, intelligence communities and stuff like that. I'm also going to be a guest. I know there's some people listening in Ireland right now on the Lorna Poole show. And supposedly she's a big shot in Ireland, so I'm hoping she is. Okay, I'm going to get some business out of this interview. I'm going to be interviewed by Lorna Poole in Ireland, and we're going to be talking about relationships and infidelity investigations. I have a new show just added to the members section with Dan Zupansky, who has this podcast called True Murder. And he told me this really fascinating story about this case of a fascinating murder that happened over there in Canada, where this guy stole a necklace from Susan Sarandon during the filming of the movie Shall We Dance with Jennifer Lopez and Richard Gere, and then ran into this guy named Tierhuis, who was lured him back to his little motel room, and they both got really drunk, and then Tierhuis steals the necklace from him and kills the guy and dismembers him and takes his organs out, and he disposes of the organs, and then he washes he dismembers him at the elbow and all that kind of stuff, really intense stuff, and he dismembers and he washes off the body parts and he poses them. I think it was in the bathtub for when the police came, and then he turned himself into the police station. This guy Tierhuis. And he was sort of like and then somehow he got in touch with who's the guest name? Dan Zupansky. And his blog is called True Murder. So Zupansky gets a hold of this guy Tierhuis in the jail while he's awaiting sentencing, even though the guy's lawyer tells him not to talk to anybody. But Tierhuis gets a hold of the guy. Gets a hold of Dan Zupansky and tells him all the stuff about how he committed this murder, and he thought he was going to become a celebrity like Jeffrey Dahmer or Wayne Gacy by publishing this book with Tierhuis. But it turned out it didn't work out that way for him, because Tierhuis turned over all his letters and stuff like that to the DA, the prosecuting attorney, up there in Canada. See, because their laws are a little bit different. And if Tierhuis could have proved that he was so drunk that he wasn't in control of his faculties when he committed this murder and dismembered this guy and washed him off, it just fascinates me. How can you pull this off in a little hotel room when you got those thin walls? You can hear everything going on next door. How do you do that? How do you kill somebody and you cut them up and you're washing them and then you're disposing of the organs? Just fascinating how people are able to do that, because I've never been quite able to pull it off. And all the murders I've done. Anyway, that's Dan Zupansky. You can check that out. It's in the member section. A really funny story. And I hear a lot about this guy Zupansky, that his blog, True Murder, is like a very popular blog. Next week, on Saturday, I have coming up Brad Schreiber. And we're going to be talking about Patty Hearst and the SLA and Vacaville and mind control, and how the whole thing was sort of like some kind of mind control operation, that this guy Sinkyu was somehow mind controlled in that case. And I've heard this theory before. I've always tried to get somebody to come on the show and discuss it with me. Could never find a guest. Got a hold of Brad Schreiber through Peter Dale Scott. who I had on. I guess it was last Friday night. A wonderful guy, Peter Dale Scott. Finally, he got tired of my nagging, finally gave in and did an interview with me. I've been trying to get him for 3 years. And get this, all right, now he loves me. I'm liking everything on Facebook. Everything, every little comment every 5 minutes I see on Facebook. Now the guy loves me, okay? It took him 3 years to become my pal, but now he likes me. And he even invited me to come out and visit him in California. Now, I'm not going to put any pressure on him, but he wants me to tell him my story about Mark David Chapman. And he says he wants to write about that. He got all excited when he heard about that. So I still have not had a chance to sit down and write that because I got so much work to do. You guys have no idea. There's so much going on. We're trying to prepare for this trip. I have full press credentials right now for the state of California, and I'm in touch with the Bernie Sanders campaign press office in California. So now we're back to where we were here in Nevada, where I get email updates. I get the press statements. When Bernie, wants to release a statement, I get those statements. When I get a list of all the places he'll be appearing at every day, and then we get press access. We get passes to go into the event early, but we don't have to wait online. And you get in there, you get you sit in the press pen area. You get Wi-Fi they let you have. You got a little place you can plug your stuff in, and so I'll be able to go to these events in California starting in June, and broadcast live from there. It won't be. Very unlikely we'll be broadcasting on all these stations. Maybe some of the stations let me break in, like guys like Awake Radio. They'll let me break in during the day and stuff like that. And maybe like People's Internet Radio in the middle of the night, they'll let me break in. Because they're in Ireland, no one's listening anyway. That's the only problem, because they're all asleep by the time I come on. Let's see if I see a couple of Z's in the chat room over there. So that's the plan. Me and Vic gets off school in June. We're going to have to rent a car and go to California and start hitting all these events, and bring our camping equipment, and try to save money, because we got no money to do this is the problem, right? So what I'm hoping is, and I put out a couple of feelers today, if there's anybody in Nevada or in California that has a good car that wants to participate in this kind of project with us and help us out, get a hold of me at oppermanreport@gmail.com, or, message me somehow, right? And we'll include you in this. You'll get a producer's credit on the radio show. And this trip, too, we're trying to fit in also filming with Peter Dale Scott, if I can get a hold of him, and with Hank Harrison, the father of Courtney Love, who told us all that stuff about how he was friends with Kenneth Anger and all the stuff he's told us. So, I want to get to his horse ranch up there, up in Northern California, and film with him. And we have a real film crew up there that's willing to help us out on spec, that we won't have to pay them. So the only expense we have, okay, is renting a car, because my car won't make it over there. Forget it. I can barely get around the block here in this little red thing. Got to rent the car. It's like a 2-week operation we're looking at, or at least 8-10 days. Got to rent the car, and then we need places to stay in California, if you can help us out with that. Okay, if you really want my blathering, nonsense, in your home. And Vic will be with me. She's 15 years old. She'll be my assistant. She has press access too. So if you're interested in doing that, you'll get a credit on the film for helping us out too. You get a producer's credit on the film. So when people go to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, and look up your name, they'll find you on there, and that you were part of this project. You'll thank you and a producer's credit. And all you have to do in exchange is help us out with a car, place to stay, run some errands with us and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, or you want to donate some money, that's great too. We got that GoFundMe /Opperman Report. You don't have to be bothered with anybody. I can do all this on my own. We have the cash. Or I can make some money between now and then, and we'll pull it off that way. But that's the plan for June. So this is really, really urgent that we get some cash in for that. Now, OppermanReport.com, if you become a member, even just for a month, if we had 100 people become a member for a month, then I can go there in June, because it takes 30 days to get that money. I'll know that my July rent's paid. I won't get evicted in July. I'll be more than happy to go there and eat ramen noodles and stuff like that for a month. I got no problem with that. I just don't have the rent money in July, So that's where we are with all that, with the big trip and this. And once we get the first documentary film, okay, even if we don't get this deal, the guy who's going to film with me up in California, he has connections that we could pitch it to these different media outlets. You know? But even if that doesn't work out, I can put this film up on Amazon, and because I get interviewed all the time and I got the radio show, we'll sell enough that now we got the ball rolling. We'll have enough coming in with that we can start doing more films. Because I got another one on the East Coast I want to do about the Process Church and the Son of Sam cult. Okay? And that's all pretty much ready to go too, man. Just need the funding, guys. We just got the funding and the time. That's what we need. So if you can help out with that, get a hold of me, oppermanreport@gmail.com. Everyone's welcome. Got a audition coming up Monday morning. I'm doing a Skype audition for a documentary series in the UK. Whoops. Okay. I'm got my little cord caught here. So that I get up there to the UK, and we're going to be filming a series. It would be like a serial series every week about those murders, the pushing murders into the Manchester water, up there. And the theory is I'll be the PI from America who's up there to solve the case. I'll be Columbo showing up there. Remember the episodes where Columbo went to England? That'll be me. That's me. That's going to be me. Okay, I'm going to get a trench coat. They'd never sell Columbo. I'll just do the Columbo. I'll be Peter Falk. They've never seen it. Right? We know he was popular. I'll just do that. I'll get a little cigar. I used to smoke cigars. Okay, I'm trying to kill time, guys. All right, we got coming up, too, James D. Sanders about the TWA 800 crash. You can check that out. There's a video up on YouTube about NYPD Harbor Aviation, Discovery Channel. They did a little documentary series with the NYPD Harbor Aviation guys. I know all those guys in that video. They're all my friends from New York City. They were in my wedding. I was at their wedding, stuff like that. We went bachelor parties together. And these are guys who recovered the parts from TWA 800. And they've always said to me off the record that it was a missile. And there's a lot of evidence of that, that there was a reserve, like a naval reserve ship that was there in the area, and it was testing missiles or accidentally fired a missile, and then he just took off and he left the area. And there's a lot of funny stories. I have a lot of funny stories behind that from talking to these guys, because when they were there doing this recovery operation, they had all the victims' families staying at this hotel, right? And so they were landing their helicopter on this lawn area, this field. And one day some guy showed up in a U.S. Army general's outfit, and he said, well, this isn't going to do. We need to build a helipad here. And he started giving orders, hey, order the asphalt from here, and the cement, those bulldozers, from here, cement, those flattener things, And they built a helipad. And they went, oh boy, this is great. We can land here and take off from here. But then it turned out that the guy was a total phony. The guy had no authorization. The guy had no real credentials or anything. He just showed up and pretended that he was someone from some government office, and he had this helipad. And the thing is, they couldn't do anything about it because it would be, the press would be so bad. It would be too embarrassing that they couldn't expose this guy and talk about it. So the whole thing went unknown until I started talking about it, because I think they're still afraid to talk about it. But that's a little story I have from behind the scenes here, knowing those characters. Another thing coming up, too, we have Montgomery Blair Sibley, who was the attorney for the D.C. Madam, the one that committed suicide in D.C. This is the female one, Deborah Jean Palfrey. And he sent me copies of her Verizon phone records. I should put that up, because I got that. I posted some of it on Facebook. I copied and pasted. I took screenshots of it, and I pasted some of that on Facebook. Some interesting stuff, some defense contractors, but also another one, too, is the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. she was on the phone with, arranging deals. This was her business cell phone that she was using for her prostitution business. And these big law firms, these big defense contractors, these big companies, and Archdiocese of D.C. all calling her up, booking talent from her, you know. Very interesting, right? So I'm taping with him. He's the guy I'm going to be taping with. Got Kevin Sullivan coming back to talk about Ted Bundy. I got a guest about Paul McCartney coming on. Fascinating guy. And he has these recordings, telephone recordings of relatives of Paul McCartney, where they're talking about how Paul McCartney is a real jerk. And rubbing in their face that he bought him a house and stuff like that. Very controlling, you know, saying, I put the food on the table around here and I own this house. I'm in charge. Shocked. Okay, let's see. Okay, maybe there's a question in the chat room. There were some questions. Get the hell out of that. There's some questions and some comments in the chat room before about what is it does Ed drink during the show. And today, for the most of the time, is water. But now I am having a little bit of red wine. And then they all said, I can imagine Ed with his feet up as he talks to the show. And yes, my feet up are usually up as I do this show. Up on the desk here. I got a little desk operation going here with my arm and my microphone and my stuff like that. Let's see. Let's see. So we got about 10 minutes to go. So any questions from the chat room? I could start pulling up other chat rooms too. See if there's any questions there. No question there. It'll take too long to pull up the rest. Let's see. Okay. A couple of weeks back, I was asked to talk about what I did for the Howard Stern show. Howard Stern is a big shock jock radio host here. And part of my claim to fame is that I did some jobs for Howard Stern show and some people involved with the Howard Stern show. And so people always want to know, well, what are they like and what'd you do for them? I guess the first time I got involved with Howard Stern, let me think, because it was after all the Tiger Woods stuff. Because what happened was they had a Tiger Woods beauty pageant on their show, and none of the Tiger Woods mistresses that I was working with could go on the show because they were negotiating with their agent, and she wanted an exclusive deal that we got later on. And but I was involved with it before that. I guess the first time was it came out that Jared, who works on the Howard Stern show, was someone had taken his picture and put it on an ad on Plenty of Fish. So I contacted them and I said, hey, listen, I can probably find out who put that ad up, okay, and I can investigate this, and I can trick them into revealing who's running that ad. But what they did was they went on the air right away and talked about it. I got a call from that guy, Steve Langford, who called me up in the middle of the day. I sent him an email. I said, hey, I can help you out with this. This is right up my alley. This is what I do. And so he calls me up and he wants a tape with me over the phone. And I'm trying to explain to him why I haven't done anything yet. It's nothing, I don't have it. This is what I could do, and we don't want to talk about it on the air. So I was trying to explain to him what I could do. He's this real weird guy. He kept going, fascinating. Oh, that's fascinating. Tell me more. He's like a real, shticky kind of guy, So I was preparing my little fake, because I have to prepare fake accounts, with fake pictures and stuff like that, to contact their account to try and trick them into revealing who they are. And so I went on Facebook and I says, hey, because normally I would just do it. I have my own stock photos and stuff like that. But I knew with this, I would need to have all my ducks in a row. So I wanted a model that I had a model release with. So I went on Facebook and I says, hey, who can help me out? I'm doing this gig here with the Howard Stern show, and I need some female models who can send me some pictures, and sign a release for me. So one of the women contacts me, sent me a bunch of pictures. I sent her the release, and she says, well, tell Howard I said hi. And I said, well, how do you know Howard? It turns out it was Violet Cowell, who was the girlfriend of the porno girlfriend of Mel Gibson. Now, not the one with all the tapes of Mel Gibson with that other girlfriend. This is a blonde girl who was dating Mel Gibson when he was married. So they're just funny coincidence how things like this turn out. So anyway, I had my thing all set up, and we could never catch who was impersonating Jared, because they talked about it on the air, and then whoever had set up the account was now all tipped off and warned, and so that was kind of a hopeless situation. I guess the next time was when my what are those things called? The Tiger Woods mistresses were booked to go on the show. And this was kind of an overlap. There was an overlap there going on. And at that time, that was my job for the mistresses that were here in California, here in Nevada. I had to get them to the airport and make sure that they got on the plane and make sure that they weren't on the same flight and weren't sitting next to each other on the plane, because they didn't get along with each other. But we needed them when they got off at the other end to be at the airport around the same time. So I had to arrange all of that and pick them up and get them down to the airport and make sure that they got on the plane, which is pretty much people wondering, what do private investigators do? That's a pretty common thing. Like if you're a trial, you have a trial, the lawyers will send you and say, go down to this, we got a witness, go there and make sure they get down to court. Make sure. So you go down, you check on them the night before. Just like when you're booking a guest, you want to make sure they're going to be ready and do the show. Check on them the night before. You want a reminder. Make sure they're not up all night drinking. You'll pop in there for a quick visit. Hey, I was just dropping by. That kind of stuff. So anyways, that's what I had to do with the Tiger Woods mistresses. And at the exact same time that they were on the show that time, it was this weird coincidence. I was contacted by Gary Delabate, because he was trying to get on, what's that thing called? The Parks Commission. He wanted to be a Parks Commissioner in Greenwich, Connecticut, where he lives. So, and someone had sent an email to all the people that were on this appointing committee to appoint the Parks Commissioner, to about 20, 30 different people. So, I heard this, and right away, I can probably identify who sent that email. And then I saw a copy of the email that was sent out, and it was horrible. Gary's a really cool guy. I spent some time talking to him, both before this and after this, and really cool guy, And they were making these horrible accusations about him. It's really filthy stuff that was just so off base with this guy. He's a real family man, really normal, stable guy. What I was able to find out about that email that was sent out was that, first of all, it was purportedly someone who was a neighbor of Gary's who watched activity at his house and knew what was going on. And I was able to prove that the email was created 20 minutes. The email account was created 20 minutes before all these emails were sent out. And then I was able to trace it back to the library where it was sent from. And at that point, the city of Greenwich took over to the investigation, because we had convinced them that time, by that point, that it was a phony email created for that purpose and created 20 minutes before it was sent out and sent from a library. So they followed up on that. And there are ways with subpoena power and stuff like that where you can find out who logged into that library computer at the time, because it would be, you have to put in a code at the library. So it wouldn't have been that hard. And maybe they found out who it was. Maybe they didn't. I don't know what went on after that. But that was reported on Greenwich TV and also in the Greenwich magazine newspaper up there. In fact, they were reporting on that like every week. And too, when I was doing that, working on the Gary thing, they were talking about me every day for like a whole week on the Howard Stern show. And it's kind of funny coincidence. It is a funny coincidence too, because the day that I appeared, how they have that thing, I have a screenshot of it, of the Howard 100 News. The day I appeared on there, that Ed Opperman was working on this thing for Gary, is the same show that Charlie Sheen appeared on over there. I was on that same show. And my other client was the girl who Charlie Sheen attacked in that hotel room in the Plaza Hotel in New York. And then the same day I was working on this email thing for Gary was the same day that these other mistresses that I had gotten on the plane over there were having another contest over there with Howard Stern. So, and then that was all going on. Or maybe it was Octomom or something like that, because I was involved with Octomom too. A lot of people don't know about that. I did a whole bunch of jobs for Octomom. at the time when she was going on Howard Stern all the time, too. And the reason for that is, oh, thank God, the show's over. The show's over for everybody but me, because I got to do another 5 minutes. But American Freedom Radio, thank you so much. Don't forget to support the station and support Danny there. You go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. There's a donate button. Check that out. And we'll be right back. We'll be back next week with that guy Schreiber about the SLA and Patty Hearst. Good night. Where is that?
All clear, Ed.
Okay, I'm still on the air. I'm trying to hang up with you. Listen, Danny.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you next week, all right?
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to that show.
Oh, me too.
I remember all that very well.
Hey, unless you want to talk for 5 minutes.
I can talk for a few minutes. Yeah, with Donald DeFreeze and Patty Hearst. I remember all that stuff very vividly.
Me too. Now, I was a little kid, okay, and I used to ride back and forth on the bus. It used to take me 2 hours to get to school because I was in the 8th grade. So I read everything about the Patty Hearst case. So now, what do you make of this theory that DeFreeze was like a mind control subject?
You know, it's quite possible. I mean, you never know. Now, knowing what we all know about, you know, MK Ultra and all these other programs that they had, you know, it's really quite possible that that's the case. Could be the case in a lot of other cases, too.
Yeah, because he was in Vacaville.
Yeah.
And that's where they had some of that stuff going on. Now, did you know also, too, the symbol for the Symbionese Liberation Army, where they had that snake with the 7 heads?
Right.
Do you know what that is?
No.
That's Kwanzaa.
Oh, is it?
Look it up, man.
Now, Vacaville, isn't that place where that guy buried that bus with all his children?
No.
No.
That was Waco. That was Waco. What do you think of? That was Waco, Texas. Vacaville is a prison.
No. There was a guy who kidnapped
some
school kids and buried the bus, actually, in some kind of landfill. They got all the kids. They were not killed. But I'm trying to remember that case. That was really a strange case. I don't know if it was Vacaville. But Vacaville was the scene of some place where some kind of mass murder or something happened there, I remember.
Very interesting. And they got that guy in there now that Kerry Cassidy goes to visit him all the time. Richards, Captain Richards, they call him.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it's a really weird story. He was involved in this thing where it was called the Panadrome case, because he was going to take over this little island over there in San Francisco and start a new government. They were going to have like a coup, you know? And it's just, I tried to get guests to come on the show and talk about that. I can't find anybody to. I should get a hold of the DA maybe. But fascinating story where he had these kids that worked for him, and he convinced them to go into this guy's body shop and steal his marijuana and steal his money and stuff like that. And then when they were dumping the body, their boat got stuck. They couldn't launch the boat. There's this whole, you know, and then he admitted that he dumped the body. He admitted he took the money. He bought jewelry for his wife.
Yep. Hey, Ed, I just realized something. I should check to see. I think Freighter's not doing a show tonight, but I better check to make sure.
Okay, bro. No sweat. I'll fill it up.
All right. Hey, thanks so much.
Danny from American Freedom Radio on his debut broadcast on the Opperman Report. Have a good night, man.
Guys.
Bye. The Panadrome story, okay, is really fascinating because this guy, Captain Richards, they call him now, because now he's claiming that he was in this secret space program and all this kind of crap, and it's all 100% BS. And his wife, this woman, Richards, does the circuit with the super soldier stuff and all that kind of stuff like that, and it's total crap. And pretty much everybody knows it's crap, too. Yeah, you know, no, everything, by the way, I'm getting a little comment from the chat room about how I'm able to talk about these PI stories. You got to understand, those PI stories, okay, and this is something that should be cleared up for the future, is all that stuff that I did with Tiger Woods and Charlie Sheen, those were all cases that I took on for publicity. That was the deal. I was hired by an agent to do those cases, and her clients were people that were looking for publicity out of those cases to sell the stories to the Inquirer and to the tabloids and all that kind of stuff. So those I can talk about, And Howard Stern, I can talk about that because they put out the story. That was reported in the press. They put it out the story, not me. But there's other stuff that I can't talk about. I can't, if someone hires me tonight, I can't just come on here and talk about their story. I'll hint around about some stuff every once in a while when someone's being a pain in the ass, and I'll say, oh, God, I'm a real jerk today. All right, guys, we're out of time. So next week is SLA and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of fun stuff coming on. Thank you so much, People's Internet Radio and PSN, Public Streaming Network, and Awake Radio and Shaziz Radio, and all you guys for all your time and all your help and support. Thank you.